Sunday is so short, the daf. So I figured we could just do a regular blot tonight, tomorrow and Amud, and then what's a Shabbos a blot, and then a little bit more on Sunday. Is that all right?
Rabbi, look at that, perfect.
See that, Aaron? Your mamish. You should have ran Trump's. You should have ran They might all bring you to Washington, Giuliani, to run this thing now for the next 2 weeks.
I know, but Giuliani should get out while he can. Poor guy.
See, Yaakov.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He used to ask Rabbi Yoelish, how come he always comes late to Masibas and so he says every minute I come like you say another 1,000 psukim of Tillim. So what am I rushing for?
Basically, like what we do here on the Shia. I hear.
That's right.
Exactly.
I'm not in any rush. Obviously, you're gonna say obviously. All right. Listen. Okay. Well, listen. We gotta. It just takes time for everybody to get on. But I guess if we starting on time, then
They'll learn.
and then the island will come more on time.
Time? What's on time? 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Oh, Landau's here.
That's tomorrow. Don't rush us. That's tomorrow.
All right.
Oh, what time tomorrow, Taka?
4:15 is candle lighting.
What time is the share on Shabbos while we're at it?
3:15.
There you go.
Candle lighting tomorrow is 4:15. All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Early.
Yeah, another few weeks of early, another month of early, another 4 or 5 weeks.
And then it goes to 8 o'clock at night.
So Motzei Shabbos is again at 8. Motzei Shabbos is 8 again. Was that all right for everybody?
Sounds good. We should keep it
No
there.
good. I'm not so pro. We should. I thought maybe we should do 9, but whatever.
Yeah, but you didn't show up to Avos, so wait till you have to show up and then.
Yeah, buddy, I'm already giving another shear before this one, okay? And now I'm supposed to be giving a third shear on Motzei Shabbos. So,
oh my gosh,
what happened to doing right by this man?
I don't know. The Olam would rather later, which I tell you, because they got the Avos Abanim, and I give another shear right after this man, which I've been doing for a couple of years, but I can push that one off. But whatever. So Devile 8 o'clock.
What does that mean, the Olam?
What?
We took a vote and people wanted it, the earlier one, and as far as the Olam goes.
Is that what
Some
it was?
did.
Yep.
I mean, Naftali Landau maybe not, but the Olam.
The Olam counts with their
yeah,
cash.
here we go.
Here we go.
It works with cash. The more cash, the larger the Olam.
Where did that cash ever go? Because Sviako said he never got it.
I got it. I sent it back.
Alti dog.
Listen,
Yeah.
what in the Daf WhatsApp about the malacha? You can't ask a guy to do malacha for you if you're.
Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
What's for
Sorry to
Sunday?
bring up learning.
Okay, one second. So
What's the schedule for-
tomorrow we're doing a 3:45.
Sounds good.
Sounds lovely.
3:45. Gets you out of doing a lot of work in the house. I know. I could tell from that voice.
What's with the Siyum? What time's the Siyum?
Why, you're coming in?
No.
It's gonna be warm.
Even if I came in, I'd have to quarantine first, right? So I'd miss it
Not
either way.
if you fly into Jersey.
Plenty of people come from Florida. Plenty of people come from Florida and don't quarantine.
You can quarantine in Peretz's backyard with briskets. What's wrong with that?
Orimond,
Yeah.
I just landed in Newark about 2 hours ago. If you go through Newark, nobody stops you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're putting you on the clock now. That's
I still think he's not coming.
I'm still not coming. That's correct.
Okay.
You can get tickets for like $20.
That was not the reason.
Is there a Zoom?
Yes, it will be on Zoom. What do you say? 7:30 Sunday night? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just let you know, I've tried and looked and tried, but you cannot smoke a cigar over Zoom. I'm just telling you.
Yes, I can in my own yard.
Okay. All right. So let's go. Yeah, let's pause it from yesterday. A lot to chazan from yesterday. Oh, hold on a second. Daf was it? Kuf Beis. What is it? No, today's Kuf Beis. Yeah, so then we said making doorway with we have a continuation of it tonight. A door with thorns and a mat, you can only use it if it's not sitting on the ground. Machlokes, if these doors have a pivot in them, they don't have a pivot in them, then using thorns to close up a wall, and then using a door that's not, we called it a widow door, an almana door, right, which is not a full door. And then we said with oil, so you have to build the top first and then the walls. Oh, there was something I forgot to mention yesterday. What was it? About the oil. Not the oil. About oil. What was it?
First you're worried about what time you make, minyan and the shear, and now you're worried about the oil.
I know, crazy, right?
Yeah, you're getting Hasidish and Litvish all at the same time.
That's right. Confused. It's called confused. What was it about oil? I can't remember. Okay, I'm sorry. If it pops in my head, I'll say. And then we had with the apikoros and the thorns. Then we had that story with the apikoros and the thorns, where he thought the gedolim are called thorns. That was a negative, and they turned it around that it was a positive. Yeah, and then we said you can't open doors if you're in Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. That was the whole key issue, opening the lock of a door with a key. And then in Yerushalayim, how they used to do it. And then we said Yerushalayim is not a Rosh Hashanah because there was breaches in the walls. And we thought Rameir's shita was that you can't even do it from you can't open the door from a Carmelist to a Rosh Hashanah, but then we said that you can. Then in Amud Beis, all these different scenarios about doors, and then we said that the bottom line is the Machlokes is if the door had a hole in it, do you say that you virtually open up the hole to 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim? Right? And then we had the next Mishna,
basically, Weeder
right?
asked if
asking?
we could move up our appointment because we're the last
So
appointment.
Machlokes,
The one prior is 45
You
minutes
gotta
before.
mute him, Peretz. Where's he mute?
I told her it's
Avrami, mute yourself.
Yeah, Machlokes, if a bolt that has a handle on it could be used on Shabbos, and disagreement of what happened in Tveria. And then the Machlokes is a string can't hold up the bolt. Fine, that brings us to the Mishna on Daf Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. A lot of very interesting Gemaras here at the end of Eruvin. Totally negate to Shabbos, not Eruv. Yeah, so Nagar Anigra. If you have a lock, a bolt that closes the door, Hanigra, that's rolling on the ground, meaning it's laying on the ground. So Noilin Boy B'Mikdash, you're allowed to use it to lock a door in the Beis Hamikdash, Avaloi B'Medina, but not outside the Beis Hamikdash. V'Hamunach, but if it's on the floor, meaning if it's attached to the door, but it's just dragging on the floor. So in the Beis Hamikdash, it's allowed. Not in the Beis Hamikdash, it's not allowed. If it's resting on the floor, then both are asur, which means because you're saying that it's in a deraisa of baina. So again, just as a hakatama, I should have said it before we started reading. In the Beis Hamikdash, there's a klal called Ein Shvus B'Mikdash. There's no isuri derabanan in the Mikdash. But we're going to see in Rashi and Amud Beis that it doesn't mean that there's no isura d'Rabbanan. I mean, you don't have to keep Chol of Yisrael in the Beis Hamikdash, without getting into Ramoshem. Just theoretically, in the Beis Hamikdash, you could eat not Chol of Yisrael because it's d'Rabbanan. Bishul Akum is okay in the Beis Hamikdash because it's a d'Rabbanan. No, right? It means anything that's negeya directly.
They were never milchiks.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, then they certainly didn't have to keep glat because that would be a derabanan. Okay, so let's go with that, right? So no, it just means things that are directly related. Meaning, if a gzeira derabanan is going to intervene in you being able to do a part of the avodah that's supposed to be done in the Beis Hamikdash, then it's not allowed, right? Then it's not allowed. Then you don't have to keep it. Yeah. So.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, right here. There's the next few Mishnayos are all examples, right? So the door, even though this is the Rabbanon, if the lock is dragging on the floor, right? But in the Beis Hamikdash, you're allowed to use that lock if you need to lock a door for whatever it is, if it's directly related to a carbon, right? But out of the Beis Hamikdash, you're not allowed to do it, right? But if it's placed on the floor, even in the Beis Hamikdash, you're allowed to do it. Meaning, if it's on the floor without being connected to the door, then even in the Beis Hamikdash, you're not allowed to do it. Rabbi Rabbi Yehuda is more mekel. Rabbi Yehuda is going to be mekel in all the next Mishnayos. He says if it's on the floor, it's mutter in the Beis Hamikdash and hanigrar b'Medina. And if it's attached to a string, then it's mutter even in outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So he takes it one step more lenient than the Tanna Kama. Okay, so now the Gemara just explains the Mishnah. Tanarabana. Ezu nagar hanigra shenaylam b'Mikdash. What type of lock that's being dragged on the floor that's attached with a string to the door can you lock in the Beis Hamikdash? Have a live in Medina, not in the Medina. Kosher v'talui, as long as it's tied on and it's hanging. And one end of it is on the floor. That's even mutter in the Medina. What kind of lock are you allowed to use to lock a door in the Beis Hamikdash and not outside of Beis Hamikdash? If it's not tied on and it's not hanging, and it's just it fell off, like from the word shmita, it slipped off the door, and you just put it in the corner and you're not allowed to do anything with it. Some Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel, halacha Rabbi Yehuda by nigrar. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda by nigrar, and Amarava Usha kosher bedelas, that it has to be tied on to the door. All right, so that is the way we paskin. If you have a lock on a door, so if it's hanging by something, then you're allowed to do it. But if it's not, then you're not allowed to. A classic example would be if you know those windows that you have that have the cranks, right? So would you be able, if that crank fell off, would you be able to put it back on Shabbos? Right? So you would not be able to put it on Shabbos. If it was hanging by a rope, then you would be able to put it on Shabbos. But if it's not hanging by, not unless it's always broken and it's a yeshivish window, and you're constantly putting it on and off, or if you don't want the kids messing with the window, so you pull it off and you leave it on the shelf, and then when you need to open the window, you crank it, and it's meant to do that, then it's all okay, right? Here we're talking about all these cases where it's not meant to do that. If it's meant to be done that way, then it's fine. So Gemara says, "Eini, it's not true." Rabbi Tavla, Iklul Mechuza. Rabbi Tavla went to travel to Mechuza. V'chazalahu da'ava tali be'ivra dedasha. And he saw a guy hanging, he saw the lock hanging from the door. And he didn't tell him anything, right? So what do you see from that? Yeah, it was.
Who was he supposed to tell? Was there anyone there? He just saw the door like that.
I imagine he would have, I don't know. It doesn't say that he saw anybody locking the door either.
So I'm saying he figured that the door's like that. So this is what this. So they're doing something wrong, but there was no one necessarily there.
True, and maybe it was. And Lechara was on Shabbos though, also, right? Otherwise, during the week, was he expected to tell him on a Thursday? By the way, you can't lock that door. Right?
Is this all Is this all subjective, or this is all like what the norm that everybody does is? Meaning, if I go to one person's house and they keep that, like in the mashal you gave with the window and the crank, right? You go to one person's house and that's how they leave it. They leave it all the time. The crank is on the window, right? But if I go to somebody else's house, it's never on the window. Right. So which one is it? Is it subjective based on the house?
It would be subjective, yeah.
It seems like the Gemara we hear with Mechuzah, that would show that it's subjective, and the guy goes there, he doesn't know what's going on in this. What's the norm here in this case? Like, meaning in this place, is it normal that the key is left there, or is it normal that the key is not left there, or like that?
I don't know, because the really it should be on, and it's not really. It's really be'etzem, not subjective. It's only meaning it's a set halachos. Only thing is that if it's meant to do that, and that's the way you always do it, so then that's not called being baina. But otherwise, the default is
subjective. It's like ikr and tafel. What is it to you? Saying like that.
True. No, you're right. But I think it's less than subjective, because the default is that it's usher.
Rabbi Kalish shul doesn't have the handles on the windows.
No.
No, nope, you can't open. You have to go find the one handle and put it on the window if you want to open the windows. Otherwise, you can't open the windows.
Why? Because they don't want anybody messing with the windows.
Either that or they lost all the.
I guess so.
Either that or they lost
them. I'm not sure. See, I'm not sure if that you would be allowed to do that on Shabbos. I'm not sure, because there, how often does anybody play with the windows?
People open it, and I'm saying people open it. I've seen people open the windows. You have to find the handle.
They do it often, or is it meant to be?
I mean, I don't do it on a regular basis, but I've seen people do it.
I'm saying, see, if it's meant that the windows are always closed and that's the way to want to close because it's either heat on or air conditioning on, and then one Shabbos a guy decides he's going to put on the handle, so that I'm not so sure that would be okay. I'm talking about where if you're constantly opening and closing your windows, and you just want to leave the handle not on there so the kids don't mess with it.
They leave it open when people are cold, or are hot. They open it when they're hot.
I'm saying, so how often do they open it? I guess it'd be
When they're hot.
I hear, but yeah, okay. I'm not so clear exactly what the scenario would be, right? Yeah. So anyway, so whatever it is, he said that that was connected to the wall and wasn't connected, right? I'm sorry, it was connected to the bar next to the door, not from the door itself. And he didn't say anything, so he said, "Who nittel be igdoi hava?" Right? That's the problem is that it was taken with the igdoi means the rope, the rope that was holding it on, right? So if it was tied with a very strong rope, then that's considered that it's always part of the door, and it doesn't have to be necessarily hanging from the exact door. It could be hanging from the bar near the door. Okay. Rav Avya iklul in hardor chazil hu gavra tava kakota begemi. Right? He was tying onto the door, tying the lock or the bolt onto the door with a gemi, right? Which is like a grass or something. Amar then like nitroik. This is not a lock, right? Because it's not gonna hold it, right? This you got to keep the bolt hanging from the door. If you do it with something that's made out of grass, it's natural, it's just gonna break, so therefore it's no good. Okay. Boy Rav Zera, nikmas ma'u, right? Can you put the bolt all the way through the door into the ground, right? Meaning this is like those doors, when we should have painted this scenario before, but this is, you have double doors that people have in there. Sometimes in the living room, dining room, it's a double door, and the way you lock it is by you on the side of on the bottom and the top. There's a latch that goes into the ceiling, not into the ceiling, but into the threshold, right into the bottom, into the top. So that's what we're talking about here. So what happens if you stick it down? So back then they had dirt floors. So what happens if you stick it down so far that it goes mamish all the way into the dirt? So Rav Yosef, mighty boiler, what's the question? Did you not hear Tanya? Nishmat Asr, if it's fallen off, it's Asr, Nikmas Mutter. But if you're going to push it down all the way into the ground, then it's Mutter. Rav Yehuda says, Nikmas, Afa Pishaina Nishmat Asr. Nikmas, if you push it all the way in, right, then even if it's not, even if it's still attached, or Eina Nishmat means if it's not attached, right, that's a double negative. If it's not detached would be the right way, then it's Asr. Come Rav Yehuda, Shmuel halacha Rav Yehuda, the nikmaz, the halacha is like Rav Yehuda by nikmaz, right? That if you're going to push it all the way into the ground, it's also the time of my because it looks like baina. It's not actually baina, but it looks like you're building because you're sticking it all the way into the ground.
But that was how it was designed.
No, I think this is further than it was designed. It was really designed to go in, let's say, an inch or two, and he stuck it way down in. That's why I understand it.
Okay.
I think. Right now, I don't know. You're right. You're really you're really splitting hairs. That's what you're saying.
No,
right?
I'm saying the way I'm envisioning it, at least is like the modern way. We're saying that it's like there's a cord that's attached to it and it snaps and goes in. But I'm imagining as like the more modern latch where it goes down and hits like a crossbar. That little nubbin that comes out hits a crossbar, and then you can't go any further. And it goes into a pre-established hole where it's supposed to lock into place. That's how I'm imagining it. But if it's in a cord and there's a hole there, then it goes further than the cord because you snapped it. Then whatever. I don't see why there would be a difference. But whatever.
Should I use to do this card?
Right here, but I don't care. But this I think is way further down. That's what it. Yeah. Okay. Good. So Ba'amine Rav Nechumi Bar Zechariah me'Abaya also le base yad mahu, right? What that's how you make a handle on it, right? Which was our previous Mishna that we said, right? And the Mishna on the bottom is if it has a handle on it, so then it makes it into a kli, and then it's more makel, right? So amarle buchna ka'amr, you're talking about a buchna, which is a, how do you call it, buchna? The thing that you bang down the medicines with.
Pestle?
Pestle, yeah, pestle, yeah, right? Amarle buchna ka'amr, you're talking about that? Buchna, pestle, itmar, amar Rav Nechumi bar Ada, also like beis yad mutter. We said that if you put a handle on it, then it's going to be mutter. Fine. Now, for whatever reason, these next two cases, the Gemara is discussing muktza, nothing to do with what we've been discussing. Hahu shrisa, that a shrisa is a beam. Tava beira pedas, that was in Pedas's house. Tava middle be'asara. It was so heavy, you needed 10 men to carry this beam, right? For shadule adasha, and they would put it against the door, right? So then it was basically they put it against the door, so nobody would be able to open the door. V'loy amarlu v'loy midi, and Rav Pedas didn't say anything to them. Omar, Tyrus Kli Allah, it's a Tyrus Kli. Since it's a Kli, right? Because it could be used as a chair or a bench, right? Rashi says you could sit on it, so therefore it has a din of a Kli, therefore it's not muktza, even though it's extremely heavy, right? So it's a big kula here, right? Which is what we do paskin like this, is that there's no such thing as something that's too heavy for muktza. If it's a Kli, it's a Kli, right? If you need to schlep something very heavy, and you need, but it has to be a kli. Let's say a safe, like you have a big safe and you need to move it. That l'chayr is muktza, I would think, because you never move it. It's got to be something that you move. If it's something that you never move, then it's going to be also, it's going to be muktza for a different reason. But this is a kli, and a kli you're allowed to move if you need it.
We had this in Shabbos, didn't we?
Yes. Did we have this exact case?
No, similar concept of a large item that could be a cleave, but we said it's muktza because it's not movable by people.
Correct. Yeah, very good.
We had it in Shabbos or before in Eruvin? We had it by the ladder, by the wall.
I don't know. Either way, it was a while ago.
It was something having to do with the seventh day of the week.
Seventh day of the week.
Exactly. Something having to do. Yeah. It wasn't in brachas, is what he's saying. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so weiter. Next case is Hahi Asisa Dava Bei Mar Shmuel. So you had this Asisa that was by Mar Shmuel. It was some sort of very large kli. Dahava Machzekes Adriba. It would hold on to an Adriba, yeah, which is Rashi says is a lesech, right? It's 15 sa, which is a half a kur, right? That's what Rashi says. Yeah, Art Scroll says it's somewhere between 30 and 60 gallons, right? So it's pretty large kli. So Shora Mar Shmuel Lemishte Adasha. Again, Mar Shmuel allowed him to put it up against the door. Amar Tyrus Kliela, because it's a kli. So there, since it's a kli, so then it's not muksa. Sorry about that. Okay, weiter. Shalach le Rami bar Yecheskel of Amram. Neimelon mar malin mili me'al yasa. Why don't you tell us something nice? The Amrit lon mishmei the Ravasi bekipi the harbor that you said in the name of Ravasi by kipi of a boat. A kipi of a boat literally means like a kippah from a yarmulke of a boat, right? So the boat had like these arches on top of it. So tell us some halachos about that. So Shalach le Hochayam Ravasi. This is what Ravasi said. Hani kipi the arba bizman sheyesh ben tefach. If each one of those arches is the size of a tefach, obviously in its width, right? Inami ein behen tefach, or if they don't have a tefach, be'ein bein zel zesh shloisha, and there isn't 3 tefachim in between each one, which, as we know, or we should know by now, means that it's lavud, right? It's all together. So then lamacher, maybe machzeles, the next day you can go bring a mat, uparas and spread it out over it. My taima, ma'isiv al oil arayhu, it's considered adding on to a temporary tent, b'shaper dummy, and that's allowed, right? So as we know, if you want to spread out, you want to add on to an oil, a temporary oil, as long as there's a tefach covered from before, then you're allowed to add on to it, right? The 2 classic examples of this are, one, the shlak over the sukkah, right? So as long as the shlak is open by a tefach. So then all you're doing is adding on to it by spreading out the shlach over the sukkah. Right? And the other major one, which is probably more common, is the, what do you call it? The hoods over the baby stroller, right? Can you spread a hood over the baby stroller, right? So that's an oil. That's exactly what you're trying to do. That is a oil arai by any definition. So if you want to take the hood and put it on from scratch and there's no hood on at all, that's a problem. But if the hood is open by a tefach from before Shabbos, then you have no problem, right? So that's basically, this is what we learned it from. That's a Hanu. Then the next case, Hanu Dachri the Havalei Rav Huna. So he had Dachri, is rams, right? Divama Bo Tula. During the day, they need shade. Obalelia Bo Aviran. At night, they needed air. Meaning, so during the day, you want to spread out a tent over them or a roof, and during the day, you want to take it off so they get air. Also, the Rav, they came from Rav Amarle Zil Kroich. Would you go wrap up the mat, v'shayir ba tefach, but leave a tefach of it, and lamachar pashta, and then tomorrow, then you can spread it out when you need the shade. Umoisef al oil arayu v'shabadam, and all you've been doing is adding on to an oil aray, and that's good. I just wonder from this Gemara, right? When you have the shlach rolled up, or you have the baby carriage hood, right, that it's folded up, yeah. And it makes a tefach that way. Is that considered a tefach or that's not? Meaning if you rolled up your shlach all the way, so nothing is sticking out of it, is that roll, which is probably a tefach wide, enough of a tefach to be adding on or not? I think it's a shaila in the Paiskim. I don't remember what they come out with, but l'chara, this is a raya that it would be considered a tefach, because he's saying roll up the mat, and then you'll have the rolled up mat will be a tefach, and then pull more. Anybody agree? Yeah.
So if a guy has a car, he has a car lot, he sells cars, and it's going to rain, so you can roll out the cover over the cars on Shabbos.
What?
I mean, the rams are they're commodities. The rams, they're not. What are they?
I understand. What you caught? What?
He had behemoths that he wanted to cover up. Yeah.
Right.
So it's the same if the guy was selling cars, so he wants to cover up his cars on Shabbos.
Right. So what I mean, it was spread over the behemoths or it wasn't?
I mean, what is the case in the Gemara?
No, I mean this is stam. He needs it's a corral.
Okay,
right?
So I need to cover my cars. It's starting to snow.
And a chanami, as long as they're covered by one tefach, you can cover them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yes, but yeah. I'm just wondering if you have the tarp rolled up.
I understand what you're asking. Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't. I should have looked into it, but I didn't. But yeah. Okay. Let's see weiter. So Amarav Mishum Rabbi Chia. V-line mutter l'netaisai. A V-line is what do you call it? A curtain. It's mutter to hang it up, and mutter l'pargam Shabbos. It's mutter to take it down on Shabbos. Why? Because it's also temporary, right? So it's basically, how do you say it? Can you put a mechitza up on Shabbos based on this, or change the paroiches in front of Aron Kodesh, right? So again, if the mechitza is going to be matter something, then that's not allowed, right? Can you put up, if let's say you put up this curtain and that will make your eruv kosher? So that we already learned you're not allowed to do. That's called a mechitza materes. It's being matter something. That's like fixing. So that's not allowed. But here you're putting up, let's say, the air, like in my house, my mother's house, they used to have, if we wanted the air conditioning not to go out, so we would hang up a sheet by the doorway on Shabbos so that it would at least keep in some of the air conditioning on a very hot day. L'chara, that's okay, because you're just putting it up and taking it right back down. Right? But if it was a mechitza, if you decided to get from, right, then maybe it's, I don't know, is that called mechitza materes, or who cares about a mechitza? So I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Are you allowed to put up locks to keep out people from davening, or that doesn't work?
Locks?
Well,
we're only putting up sheets.
Parrots, we saw what happened with that.
Parrots, don't go there now.
Closed every shul. That caused every shul in the city to be closed. We know what happens when you do that.
Yeah, I hear it. I didn't. That one went totally over my head until you.
And that's the story we're sticking with.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So weiter. So then we on to this is also a repeat from Shabbos, right? I think it was Shabbos.
The umbrellas that are outside, like the patio umbrellas.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So even when they're closed the whole way, they're still a tefach open. So is that
Correct,
similar to the? Is that similar to the role of the shlock?
First of all,
You're not under. You're not under it.
It's very good you're bringing that up because many poskim hold that when that a patio umbrella that's in the what do you call that the base under the table or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
then that can be opened on Shabbos.
Uh-huh.
Because it's already part of it is for what you're saying, right? Because it's already a kavuadika thing, right? The regular umbrella is more of a problem, but we'll get to the umbrella in.
Well, the regular umbrella, as long as you don't take that extra Velcro strap around it, it's also probably open to tefach the same way the one with the base is.
True, but umbrella, the Halachos says part of the umbrella is that with the way it locks in is a much more sturdy locking in than anything else. But then a pack and play l'chara should be a problem according to that Bir Halacha because it also locks in very well. Okay, we'll get to umbrella after we get to the Mishna. Okay, so kilas chassanim, right? So that's this tent that chassanim. Yeah, it's called a kilas chassanim, which is sort of like a teepee. Yeah, mutter leparkol and a toisa b'Shabbos. That you're allowed to take apart and put it back on Shabbos, right? Because it's not an oil. Since it's a teepee, it's not considered a real oil. So we're gonna go with all the qualifications of what makes it into this kilas chassanim. Someone of sheishas breder of idi lo yamoron ela she'ein begaga tefach. That's only if there's no tefach, right? Meaning the top where it forms the point. It's not a tefach wide. Aval yesh begaga tefach also. Then it's going to be also because that's an oil, right? And it's an oil from scratch. You're not adding on to an oil. B'chi ein begaga tefach. And even when there's no tefach in the top, right? That's only if it's so sharp that within 3 tefachim down, it's still not a tefach wide. Meaning, if the point is like this, like right with like my hands, like if it's like this, so then within 3 tefachim of the top, it's going to be a tefach wide. Then that's also considered an oil. But if it's very sharp like this, so then and it only gets to be a tefach wide more than 3 tefachim down from the top, then that's okay. Then it's also. That's the second qualification. Third qualification. Now we're on to Amud Beis. That's only where when it goes down, right? It's not a tefach. Aval yesh b'shipua tefach, but if in the how do you say it? As it's going down, there is a tefach. Shipua oilam ka'oilam dami. Then we say that the way the oil slants down, that's like an oil, and if it's a tefach, then it's also going to be no good. Okay, so it has to be a very, very small. Right? V'amar Rav Shisha, 1 second. Yeah, you see the Rashi has a diagram. See, because here's the problem. How thin is this bed? Right? Without getting too technical over here, I mean, you can't have too big a bed over here. Yeah? Because it's like 3 tefachim. What's the widest the bed could possibly be? Right? So that's what Rashi says, that there's a few beds next to each other. So it sort of looks like, you see what, it's really one bed, but like 3 different roofs. You see the Rashi? You see the diagram in the Rashi? He's saying that you have a few of these, it looks like multiple tents right next to each other, right? With one mattress. That's the way Rashi explains it. Okay, fine. Now we get into more practical. Second line down. This is also repeated Gemara on Shabbos, right? A siyana is a hat. a hat is mutter to wear on Shabbos. Oh, Vatanya Asr. We learned that it's also to wear on Shabbos. Like Kasha, had the ispe tefach, had the less tefach. Where the brim of the hat has a tefach, you're not allowed to. If there's no tefach, then you are allowed to. Now, nowadays it's not so negaya, right? Because I don't think it's in style to have a tefach brim anymore, right? But
Still
in the
no
old-
gaya. Plenty of people have big
plenty of
hats.
people have- okay, so what's
Plenty
that?
of people have big brims. It's still no gaya.
David
Yeah.
Feinstein. Didn't Reb David Feinstein have a big brim?
Yeah, that's
You
true.
have to make a reference every day to him.
Listen, why not? Why
He took
not?
over. He took over for Corona.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
I mean, not Baruch Hashem. I mean, whatever. At least we're using his death as something positive. That's what I mean, right? Yeah. So Reb David Feinstein's hat talk would be an issue. Yeah. So how the ispe tefach, how the less tefach. So the question is, why do we wear hats?
Actually, most of the up hats are like that also in general, no?
Truth is, the up hats are also. See, don't be so frum, right? Elamayata.
You come up with a new reason not to wear an up hat.
And a
I don't
Strymel
need
going
any
up?
new reasons.
What about a Strymel?
Strymel for sure, right? Anyways, so let's see. Elamayata sharv beglima tefach. So if that's the case, then if you pull a hood, let's say a hood over your clothing, it doesn't mean over your clothing. You just you pull your clothing off of you a tefach. Does that mean that it's also asr? Hachanami the asr, so that's also asr. No, one is when it's on tight, one is when it's not on tight. So if it's on tight, if your hat is on tight, right, then there's no problem carrying it. But if it's not on tight, then you have a problem. So if you have a loose hat that has to be held on Shabbos, so what's the deal, right? So the pshat is, so the basic answer.
Yaakov, isn't that the makar for the ribbon around the?
No, that's the little belt, Aaron. Yeah, and it had the button because that button went into your
lapel.
suit jacket. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a cowboy hat. You need the string around your neck, around your chin for the cowboy hat.
So that's where it comes from, no?
Is that so? Good, but I don't know if that's considered. Is that going to take care of that's not take care of the oil issue? That might take care of the being on tight, right?
No, it's attached to your body.
Right.
I think that's the shot, no, or Baron?
Yeah. Okay. Could be, but here's the thing.
That's what it was made for. Yeah.
What do you call it? What I want to say. So the bottom line is that our hats, the basic pshat, why we're allowed to wear hats is our hats are not meant to protect. Nobody's wearing a black hat to protect themselves from the elements or from the sun or whatever it is, right? We're not. That's not. We're wearing it for style.
You have to protect the hat from the elements.
What?
You have to protect the hat from the elements.
Correct.
I thought we wear hats to protect our kids so we can get good shidduchim.
That's true too, but it had nothing to do with an oil. It has nothing to do with an oil, not to protect you. So in Mela, that it's okay. So then what comes out? Those guys that wear a baseball cap.
Parents, you have no problem. People, they'll see your brisket, they'll make shidduchim with you. Don't worry about it.
There you go. Yes. What about a baseball cap? Those guys that wear baseball caps to shul. People wear it because they want to protect themselves from the sun. I'm sure in Florida it's more of an issue than here.
Yeah, you told us we can't do it.
Yeah, right. We came out with that.
Yeah. No more. Can't do that anymore.
Well, I'm saying, tell me, you're learning the Gemara right here. You coming out with a heter?
They do it for rain. For the rain, they do it more than they do it for the sun.
Okay, so rain maybe it's better for rain. No, but that's also oil. The only thing is
those ones that say it's this is my black hat or my other hat is Borsalino. Does that work?
So that you're not wearing for protection. There you're just wearing to give everybody attitude. So that's also not an oil. No. That's what I would think. So, okay, so here from the Gemara, maybe if you say you're going with the reason that if it's tight on the head, which most baseball caps are, right, then it's not an issue, right? Okay, so fine. Okay, so that's that sugi. Zok the Gemara of Mishna weiter. Machzirin sira tachton b'mikdash avalei b'medina. Again, we're talking about the bolts. Again, like those double doors that we were saying. So you have a bolt going into the bottom and a bolt going into the top. So if the bolt came out, so you're allowed to put the bottom one into the floor in the mikdash, into the door into the mikdash, but you can't do it in the Medina. But Elyon in the upper bolt, kan v'kan also, but the upper bolt is going to be also in both places, right? Because that's mamish. What do you call it? Binyan. Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. Rabbi Yehuda again is more mekel ha'elyon b'mikdash. The upper one in the mikdash and the what do you call it? In the mikdash, it's allowed to be put in, but obviously not out of the mikdash. V'atachta in Medina, and the lower one you can do in the Medina too. Fine. Tanur Rabbanan. Tzir delas shida table migdal. If you have this bolt of the door of a shida table migdal, these are different types of boxes. So by mikdash, if it's in the Beis Hamikdash, right, machzirin, you could put it back. By Medina, but if it's in the country, meaning not in the Beis Hamikdash, doichen. You can push it in, meaning if it's starting to fall out, you could push the thing back in. But the upper one, kan v'kan lo yal, so you can't do it. Now why would you have? We said, remember that ain't shvus b'mikdash is only with things that are required for a carbon. Why would you need to lock a box or unlock a box in the Beis Hamikdash for a carbon? So Rashi says the salt or the incense or the ketairos is locked in there. So that's why you needed to get it. Otherwise, there's really no reason, that no direct need to be opening boxes in order to bring karbanos. Okay, so they're both, you're not allowed to put it back. Because perhaps you're going to actually end up putting it in very tight, and that's going to be building. Vim taka, chayiv chatas. And if you did stick it in, then you're going to be chayiv chatas. Yeah? V'shel bar, v'shel dus, v'shel yitzia. These are all things that are in the ground. Lo yachzir, you can't put it back. Vim hichzir, chayiv chatas. And if you did, then you're chayiv chatas because it's a daraisa. Right? Meaning these are like, what do you call it? You know, like the stores, the grocery stores used to have in the floor. That's what I'm assuming. Like those entrances down to the storage, those big metal doors, right? They open them and close them. So if those doors were not attached, or if the bolts weren't attached, then that would be mamash nisa deraisa to do that. Fine. Next interesting case in the Mishnah. So machzir and retia b'mikdash. Now there's a din that there could be no chatzitza when the kohen is doing the karbonos. So there could be no chatzitza. So let's say he has a cut on his hand and he has a bandage. So what's he going to do? He's going to take off the bandage, and that's a direct need. But what about on Shabbos? Right? So the Mishnah says, Machzir and Ratiyah b'mikdash, you're allowed to put it back. Right? Meaning, well, let's do the whole Mishnah and we'll go through it. Machzir and Ratiyah b'mikdash, you're allowed to put back. A ratiyah is a bandage, and the mikdash avalei Medina, but on the Medina you're not allowed to do that, right? In betchila, but if to do it in the first place, kan v'kan osir. Then in both places it's osir. Okay, so meaning if they never had the bandage on, then you're not allowed to put on the bandage, not in the Beis Hamikdash, and not in the Medina. Now, very interesting, Rashi, what's going on here, right? So now the kohen. He has a cut on his hand. He wants to do the avodah. So he's got to take off his bandage, right? And then we're allowing him to put it on. Why? Let a different kohen do it, right? Let it live in. So the answer is because, and we got into this a lot, and Landau, this is for the Hatzalah guys here. We discussed it way back in the beginning of Aaron, the beginning, like Daf Chof in that area. I was in the Yuds. That if you're not going to allow this kohen to take off the bandage and to put it back on, then he might not end up doing the avodah. So it's called, we're being mater tchilasoi saifai mishum tchilasoi, right? We're being mater the saifai mishum tchilasoi, meaning we're allowing him to, he's going to take off the bandage, right? If we don't allow him to put it on, to put back on the bandage, he's just not going to do the mitzvah. He's not going to bring the carbon because he's going to be without a bandage the rest of Shabbos. So then we say you could put back on the bandage, so therefore take it off in order to bring the carbon, and then you'll be able to put it back on, right? This is the heter for, and it's Machlokes Ramosha and Rav Zalman. Ramosha holds you're allowed to do this even for deraisas. This here is a derabbanan, as are most of the other cases. Ramosha extends this heter even to deraises, which is why he allows Hatzalah members to drive home from calls. Because if you don't drive home, let them drive home, they're not going to end up going on the call in the first place, right? The same concept here. Shlomo Zalman says, no, it works with the Rabbanans, does not work with the deraises, right? So this Mishnah here is clearly at the Rabbanan. It's just a gezerah that we're afraid that you're going to shmear, right? What's the issue? There's actually two issues, right? So Rashi learns that it's you might shmear, right? You might smear the cream, yeah. And Tosfos brings that it's a refuah issue. You're doing refuah on Shabbos, okay, right? So okay, so Tana Rabban Zakti Gemara, Tana Rabban Ratiyah Shapirsha me al gabi maka. So if Ratiyah fell off, see, this is not if it was taken off. This is where it fell off. The Mishnah was talking about where you took it off, that you can't put it back on. Here we're talking about where it fell off. Yeah, Ratiyah Shapirsha me al gabi maka. Machzirim b'Shabbos, you're allowed to put it back on Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Hochlekol lamata, right? If it moved, if it slipped, that's the literal translation, right? Cholak means to slip. If it slipped off, like let's say it's on the finger, so it slipped down the finger. So you could push the bandage back up, lamala. If it went up, then you can push it back down. Umagala muktza, and then what you can do is you can be magala part of the bandage, like pick it up on one end, right? And then you could wipe around like the mouth of the maka. And you can go do the other end, and then wipe it from there. But the actual cut with the cream or whatever it is, that you're not allowed to do because it's shmearing. And if you do shmear on Shabbos, then you chayiv chatas. So Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, halacha Rabbi Yehuda, halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Right? Now, let's just stop there a second. So putting on creams and all that could theoretically be a chi of chatas, right? So what do you do with a baby's rash or anybody that has any sort of issue on the skin?
You don't
right?
smooth it out.
What do you say?
You don't smooth it out.
Yeah, so the problem is there's a chashash. If you do with your finger, there's a chashash that you might smooth it.
To do with something else. Do with Q-tip.
Right, so that's what the poskim say really to do is take like a spoon, take like the back of a spoon, because even if you do end up smearing, which you're not allowed to, but let's say you ended up doing it, then it's with a shinoi anyways, and then that's a most that's going to be a derabana. There is a shita from the Mogan, I think it's the Mogan Avram, who says if you smear this, now this can only be used in extenuating circumstances, but if you smear the cream in totally so that it disappears, then he holds it's not an issue, an issue, whichever. He holds that is a way. It's a good cooler to know if you really have to get a cream, and sometimes people have to rub in the cream, and just dabbing it is not enough. So then you have this heter. I'm pretty sure it's a Mogan Avram that says it, but it shouldn't really be relied on normal circumstances. Usually dabbing is just enough, right? Or you could put like for a baby, for a diaper, you just put the cream onto the diaper before Shabbos, and then when the baby's moving around, that will inevitably move around the cream, and obviously the baby doesn't know what the baby is doing, so therefore it's not an issue on Shabbos. Okay, so Amar Rav Chisda.
What about the Band-Aids that have the pre-loaded?
Yeah, I don't think that's anything substantial, right? I don't think there's any cream. You can get cream off of that?
Yeah, they have Neosporin on the Band-Aid.
I'm saying, but it's actual, you can feel it, or it's just absorbed into the...
No, it's not just...
Okay, but if you just put it on and it ends up smearing by itself, then it shouldn't be no problem, right? What about the tissues with aloe?
Band-Aid itself, though, is a problem, no?
Wait, putting on a Band-Aid?
Kosher, isn't it kosher?
Yeah, so therefore you stick, what you do is you don't put the both ends of the Band-Aid on the Band-Aid itself. You put one, you make sure both ends stick to the skin, and then that is not an issue. But what about the aloe, the tissues with the aloe? So that I don't think is an issue because there's nothing substantial there. You're not getting any cream. When you wipe it on your nose or whatever, you're not getting any cream onto your nose. Right? As far as I know. Yeah. Okay. So
one second, on those tissues, it says it on the box not to use it on your glasses because it will smudge it up.
Yeah, because there's a residue. Yeah, you're right. There is.
There's cream. There's cream in the tissues.
There is, but it's not anything. It's nothing substantial enough to schmear, as far as I know.
Can't squeeze it out.
Well, I don't know if cream you could squeeze.
No, I'm saying, but yeah.
Right. By the way, that's also a thing that people misunderstand. They think that that part of the issue with the schmearing is they need cream from a tube, right? Like you take Vaseline or Desitin or whatever from a tube. They think that the schmearing is squeezing it out of the tube. There's no issue. There's no issue with schmearing, pushing cream out of a tube. Also with the toothpaste, they think that that's the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is taking the toothpaste and smearing it on, right? According to most. But there are poskim that say that that's not considered really schmearing because it's not anything substantial enough. Whatever. Okay. That's only if the bandage went onto a kli. But if the bandage fell on the ground, Devri Al-Kolos or even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that you're not allowed to put it back on. Right? Because that's considered like doing it from scratch. Amar Mar Bar Ravashi, Havakimna Kamei Abba. I was standing in front of Abba. Naflale Abe Sadya Vakama and it fell onto a pillow and he put it back. Aminale Loy Savar Lamar Lahod Amar Rav Chisda. You don't hold what Rav Chisda said that the Machlokes Shapir Shal Gabi Kli, that the Machlokes is when it fell onto a Kli. Avapir Shal Gabi Karka, but if it fell on the ground, also it's also. Amar Shmuel Allah Rabbi Yehuda, and Allah is like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Amar Li Loy Shmieli. I didn't hear this Klaimer Loy Sviruli. Doesn't mean I didn't hear that shot. He said, no, I don't hold to that shot, which is, I guess, not normally the way you would translate Leishmieli, right? So you say Leishmieli, Klamer Leishmieli meant what he meant is I don't hold of it. Okay, let's just do to the next Mishnah. Talk to Mishnah. Kaishra Nima B'Mikdash. Any musicians out there? Right, so you're allowed to tie from the musical instruments, you're allowed to tie a string. If a string got busted from one of the wind instruments, is that a wind instrument? Is that wind instrument? No. Wind instrument is trumpets and stuff, right?
Trumpets.
String.
No,
string
trumpets
instrument.
are brass.
Brass. So what's wind?
Wind is anything.
One and the same, I think.
Saxophone, clarinet. Those use reeds.
I hear.
Like a
I didn't
wooden
know you're
reed.
such a Jesse. I didn't know you're such a musician.
I don't think they had.
I
reeds
play the
back
trumpet.
then.
Oh, you played a trumpet?
An obi also.
An obi. Okay.
The classic wind instrument from the Beis Hamikdash was a flute.
Flute, right. So this is called string instrument.
100
right?
things you never knew about Jesse.
There you go. There you go.
So a string instrument would be like a harp.
Right. So here we're talking about it with something like a harp or a violin or whatever. So the string busted. I mean, a guitar would be the normal guide. So as we know, you're not allowed to fix the guitar. But in Beis Hamikdash, you're allowed to tie it on. Avalei Medina, but not in the Medina. But if to do it in the first place, then it's also. Okay, so Raminu, so Gemara is going to ask exactly what's going on here. Raminu, Nimas Kina, right, the string from a harp, they didn't tie it, they just made a bow. So like Kasha, Rabbanon, Rabbi Eliezer, one is Rabbanon, one is Rabbi Eliezer, and this is the Rabbi Eliezer from the Mishna by Mila, Rabbi Eliezer, the famous Rabbi Eliezer de Mila, who holds that because it's a mitzvah to play music in the Beis Hamikdash when the Karbonos, when they were being marked with Karbonos, but it's only a hechsher mitzvah, meaning, okay, so playing the musical instruments on Shabbos, that's not a problem, because ain't Shabbos b'mikdash, right? But what about fixing it? So it's the same thing. To cut the bris on Shabbos, no problem, but to make or carry the knife, that's a preliminary thing. So Rabbi Eliezer by Mila holds you're allowed to carry the knife. So that same Rabbi Eliezer would say here too, you're allowed to fix the instrument, right? And the chacham would say no, you're not allowed to.
So that's like the tzitzin she'ena ma'akvin.
That too, yeah, that too, right? So Rabbi Eliezer, the Omar machshirei mitzvah doichenes Shabbos.
A little bit sick.
What do you say? Yeah, so Rabbi Eliezer, the Amar Machshirei Mitzvah Doichenes Shabbos, according to Rabbi Eliezer, who says that even, how do you touch Machshirei? To make things kosher, to make it usable.
Preliminary.
Yeah. Preliminary.
Preliminary preparations.
Accessory.
An accessory. Okay. I don't know if I don't like either one of those. Preliminary. You're right. It is preliminary. It's before, but it's like it's to get what?
Preparatory.
Maybe preparatory. Right. It's not the actual. It's not the actual mitzvah that you're doing. It's in order to be able to do the mitzvah. Prerequisite. I hear.
Sous chef.
Meaning it's not. What?
A sous chef.
Who?
A sous chef.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Fine. So, anyways, it's in order to be able to get you to do the mitzvah, right? So, according to Rabbi Eliezer, we allow that. So, the Rabbanon, Damri ain't doichen einva. So, according to the Rabbanon, who say it's not doichen, then you have to use a bow. You're not allowed to make a knot because a knot is only preparatory. It's not for the actual mitzvah. So, then Rabbi Eliezer, afilu chatchila nami. Fine. So, Rabbi Eliezer, then you should be able to make the musical instrument even from the first place. Why only afterwards? Meaning why only after it breaks? So we change the pshat. One is Rabbi Yehuda, right? That a knot is an ab malacha, and one is the Rabbanon. I'm sorry, that one is Rabbi Yehuda. Meaning he holds that a niva is also a problem. A bow and a knot is a problem. But Rabbanon, and one is the Rabbanon who hold that only a knot's a problem, but a bow is not a problem. So therefore you can do it. Rabbi Yehuda, liba deman. Rabbi Yehuda, liba deman. And who's Rabbi Yehuda going according to? You liba the Rabbi Eliezer, kamar afilu chatchila nami. Right. So Rabbi Yehuda is more mekel. So is he going according to Rabbi Eliezer? Then even lechatchila should be able to make the musical instrument on Shabbos. Hello, like kasha. So then it must be different shot. Reb Shimon, Rabbanon. One is Reb Shimon, one is Rabbanon. I can't say I understand exactly what's going on here now. These next few lines with what you're doing with this string. The Tanya, maybe anybody here plays a string instrument, they'll be able to enlighten us. The Tanya Ben Levi, right? So Ben Levi, Bekinar, one of his strings of his harp broke. So Kaishra, he's allowed to tie it back on, right? Reb Shimon Aimer, Einvar. Reb Shimon says no, he's not allowed to tie it. That's as a deraisa. Reb Shimon says you can make a bow. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Aimer, afhi einam mashmas esakol. If you're going to do a bow, right? If either one of them, you're not going to get any sound out of it. I guess it sounds like he was the most expertise. He had the most expertise in the instruments. Ela mishalshel milamata. What you do is you lower it down to the bottom, the kairach milamala, and then you wrap it to the top. Oy mishalshel milamala, or you lower it from the top, the kairach milamata, and tie it on the bottom. I'm just assuming that this makes it very tight so that you'll be able to actually get some sound out of the string. What exactly you're doing, though, I can't say I clearly understand.
For guitar strings, what you do is you put it into, you ever see the things on the top of the
guitar?
Yeah,
it's much longer. The guitar string is much longer than it should be.
Right. So what you do is you put it from the bottom of the bottom of the guitar, and you put it through, and you put it like you take that guitar string and you put it through this little, I think it's called the machine. I think that's what they call it. But anyway, you turn the nozzle, whatever that thing is called.
Peg. The word you're looking for is peg.
Thank you. You turn the peg, and it tightens the string for you in order to get sound. Because if you left it loose, you can't play it. It doesn't. There's no reverberation. There's no sound.
Yeah, there's no knot in a guitar.
You're just locking it down. But that's not. That's what you're
turning it around and around and around. You could tie it technically, but
so
you don't.
That's what he's saying. So here you're just basically just wrapping it around and around, and then it's going to be okay. But so why wouldn't that be the best eitzah according to everybody? Why even start with knotting and bows? I guess that is Reb Shimon ben Elazar's taina. Okay, very good. Yeah, I didn't know we had so many musicians on this stuff over here. Okay, Viba is saying hava ha rabbanon, or we could say no, they're both the rabbanon. Right? Meaning not like Rebbe Eliezer, right? I'm sorry, not like Reb Shimon. V'loy kasha kan be'emtza kan min atzad. One is talking about it's the string broke in the middle, right? If you don't, and then you got no choice, then you have to tie it. Kan min atzad, but when it's on the tzad, so then maybe you can get away with making a bow. Again, I'm not so clear exactly what's going on here. Riba Yisema, hava be'emtza, or they're both talking about in the middle. Marsava Gazrina, and one says, no, you have to make a Gezerah, right? Because you might end up making a real knot. Or Marsava Le Gazrina, there's no Gezerah. So then you can make a regular knot. And then Yeah, so meaning one is afraid that if you're going to make a knot in the middle, you might make a knot at the end, which is not allowed. And the other one says, no, there's no gezerah. If you need a knot in the middle, fine. If you don't, and we're not afraid that you can make it at the end. Okay, fine. Okay, we
So
finished
Yaakov, maybe you could record the song. You could have the songs now that parrots finds in every Amud. You can make
Oh,
for the
we
shir.
can make a daf,
Yeah.
very good. I think that would require some serious arrangement, but yeah. All right, so tomorrow, 3:45, Be'ez Hashem. Fine. All right.
When the shaila is when the oilam should stop eating Sunday before the seer.
Don't eat already from Shabbos. That's what I say. No eating from Shabbos.
The early shaila shouldest.
Yeah. Yeah. Gershon, I guess you're not coming, huh?
No, not happening.
We got to rent you a car. Is that that's what's gonna take?
Well, yeah, something like that.
I don't know. We'll try that. Yeah. It's not cheap, the flights.
Yeah, so I could technically fly, but I would still need to fly into Newark and then rent a car there.
And because of the quarantine.
But the mile with that is I could rent a small car. I'm not driving for 10 hours in it.
Gershon, are you insane? Stay home.
Well, I am insane.
I can't with you guys. I love it, but geez Louise,
Simon, if I stay home, we'll learn.
Are we learning tomorrow, by the way?
You still keeping your chavrusa going?
Yeah, technically yes. My schedule's like really, really crazy right now.
Why? Lots of people are moving into South Bend?
No, it's whatever. It's a long story. My job evolved into really like askanis work, and
oh boy,
yeah, so like